Hey everyone, ready to dive into something? I bet we've all struggled with this. It's overthinking, getting caught in those mental loops. And you sent over this YouTube video, and it's a reaction to an Acharya Prashant talk. Should give us a fresh perspective on breaking free from that cycle, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. It is interesting, this video, it kind of layers Cody Deal's reactions, interpretations, right, on top of Acharya Prashant's talk. And having those two perspectives, you know, intertwined like that, it's almost like a double dose of insight.
For sure. It's not just hearing the original idea. It's seeing how someone else, how they connect with it, how they apply it to their own lives.
Right.
So to set the stage a bit, we've got a young student, right, in this video, and he's really struggling with overthinking these everyday situations, just classic analysis paralysis, where you overthink so much that you never actually do anything.
Yeah, and in Prashant, he offers a solution, and it's simple, but it's really profound. If you're preoccupied with all this trivial stuff, all these little things, it's because you haven't really defined what's truly important, what really matters to you.
Oh, interesting.
It's like our immune systems, right? If our immunity is weak, we're vulnerable, to every little bug that comes along. But if we don't have that strong inner compass, guiding us, well, those little thoughts, those anxieties, they get blown out of proportion.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So what would building that inner immunity even look like? Is it about training our minds, to be more resilient, to just bounce back from the negative thoughts? Or is it more about cultivating like a sense of self-worth that helps us kind of filter out, those insignificant worries?
That's a really good question. And it's something that both speakers in the video, they kind of touch upon it, in their own ways. But Prashant, he really emphasizes this idea that the mind cannot tolerate a vacuum.
Oh.
If we don't consciously fill our minds with what matters, with what's important, they just become these breeding grounds for all those anxieties.
So it's almost like we need to be proactive.
Yeah.
In curating our mental space, right? Making sure we're not leaving any room for those unproductive thought patterns to kind of sneak in and take root.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where Cody's perspective it really comes in with his emphasis on finding it a truly consuming passion.
Yeah.
He even goes as far as to say, fall in love with it, become obsessed. And he talks about, the dedication of the samurai.
Yeah.
To their craft. Almost like complete immersion is required.
Yeah.
For true mastery.
It's a very, very interesting idea. Yeah. Dedicating yourself so fully to something that it just leaves no space, no room for those trivial worries to creep in. But I'm wondering, is there a potential downside to that? Could it become a trap where we become so fixated on our passion, that we neglect other important parts of our lives?
Right. I mean, that's a valid concern. Definitely. Yeah. It's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Harnessing that power of focused passion, but staying aware, of the bigger picture.
Yeah. And Cody himself, he admits finding that all-consuming passion, it's not always easy,
Right.
And it doesn't always happen right away. He even says, you don't have to wait for some grand life purpose to just magically appear, even focusing on smaller things, like mastering a skill, that can make a difference. And he uses a very personal example, too, to illustrate this. He talks about after his mother passed away, he knew he needed something to occupy his mind, to prevent it from spiraling. So he dove headfirst into disc golf, practicing for hours, studying techniques, just complete immersion.
Yeah. It's a really powerful example of how focusing our mental energy, how that can help us navigate, those difficult emotions. It's not about denying the feelings,
yeah,
right? But finding a healthy way to channel them,
yeah,
into something constructive, something engaging.
His story, it really does resonate with me. I know I've struggled with overthinking, getting caught in those mental loops. And it makes me realize how important it is to find something, that truly pulls you out of your head and into the present moment.
Absolutely. And Cody also points out how the world is changing, unlike previous generations, people aren't staying in the same jobs for decades anymore. We're switching careers, industries, even entire life paths, much more frequently.
Which which can be, I mean, it's exciting, but it can also feel like there's more pressure,
Yeah.
to constantly be figuring things out, leading to, you guessed it, more overthinking.
Right. But Cody, he actually sees this as an opportunity,
Yeah.
for growth and for learning. And he uses this example of Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Taking a calligraphy class back in college. It seemed totally unrelated to his future, right? But that exposure, to different ways of thinking, it listened to influence the aesthetics of Apple products.
It's like that saying, you never know what seemingly random skill or experience is going to be useful down the line.
Exactly. It really highlights how important it is to have a flexible mindset. To be willing to learn, to adapt. But
Yeah.
it also raises this question of, how do we balance that openness to new possibilities with the need for focused effort?
Sure.
If we're constantly flitting from one thing to the next, can we ever truly achieve mastery in anything?
That's a great question. And I think it leads us right into a theme that both speakers touch on. It's the power of focus,
Yeah.
of intentionally directing our mental energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Prashant calls it occupation, and Cody uses the term hyperfocus, but both of them, they're really highlighting the importance of, like directing our mental energy with intention.
Yeah.
It's almost like sharpening a tool.
Yeah.
That needs constant honing.
Yeah, and Cody, he doesn't really shy away from intensity either. He says we should fall in love with our passion, become obsessed even. He even uses that example of, samurai dedicating their entire lives to their craft, that level of commitment. I mean, it's compelling, but it also sounds pretty demanding.
Yeah, it's about pushing past those comfort zones, embracing the pain requirement, as Cody puts it. He even challenges that idea that talent is innate.
Yeah.
Suggesting that true mastery, it often comes from dedicated, focused effort over time.
Yeah,
Right.
it reminds me of that saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. It's not about some magical talent. It's about that consistent effort.
Yeah.
Even when it's tough, even when you don't feel motivated.
Right, exactly. And this all circles back to overcoming overthinking. When we're fully immersed in something challenging, there's just less mental space,
Yeah.
for those unproductive worries to take hold.
Yeah.
Cody uses his own experience with disc golf as an example here. He shares that when his mom passed away, he knew he needed something
Yeah.
to occupy his mind, to prevent it from spiraling, and so he dove headfirst into disc golf.
Yeah.
Practicing for hours, studying technique, just complete immersion.
Yeah. It's a really powerful testament to the healing power of focused activity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about denying those difficult emotions. It's about channeling that mental energy into something constructive, into something engaging. It really, his story really resonates with me. I know I've personally struggled with overthinking, getting caught in those mental loops, and it makes me realize how important it is to find something that truly pulls you out of your head and into the present moment.
Absolutely. And Cody, he also points out how the world is changing,
Yeah.
Unlike previous generations, people aren't staying in the same jobs for decades.
Yeah.
We're switching careers, we're switching industries, we're switching entire life paths even. Much more frequently.
It's exciting, but it can also feel like there's this pressure, to constantly be figuring things out.
Right.
Which leads to, you guessed it, more overthinking.
Right, exactly. But Cody, he sees this as an opportunity, for growth, for learning.
Okay.
He uses this example of Steve Jobs taking a calligraphy class back in college.
Oh, yeah.
And it seemed totally unrelated to his future, But that exposure to different ways of thinking, it later influenced the aesthetics of Apple products.
It's like that saying, you never know what seemingly random skill or experience is gonna connect in the future.
Exactly, yeah. It really underscores the importance of staying open, to new possibilities, even those that don't, neatly fit into our current plans.
So it sounds like we need a balance then between that deliberate practice,
Yeah.
and that open-minded exploration, Focus is key.
Yeah.
But maybe not to the exclusion of everything else.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between focused effort and embracing those unexpected opportunities as well.
Right, and this brings to mind something else that Cody brought up. His pretty strong stance on multitasking.
Right.
He actually called it a disease.
He did. He believes that while multitasking, it gives us this illusion of productivity.
Yeah.
It actually prevents us from reaching that state of deep focus that's necessary for true mastery. Yeah.
So instead of juggling a million things at once, we should aim for that single-minded focus, on one task at a time.
Precisely. Yeah. Easier said than done,
Yeah.
In today's world where we're constantly bombarded with information and distractions, but the more we train ourselves to focus, the more effective we'll be. And the more fulfilled, ultimately.
It's like building mental muscle,
Yeah.
learning to resist that urge to constantly switch tasks. Something we could all benefit from, regardless of what we do or where we are in life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And both Prashant and Cody, they seem to agree that this ability to focus, it takes conscious effort. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
Prashant talks about the importance of determining what is important. Well, Cody, he emphasizes, cultivating a passion, making it central to your life.
Both of them highlighting the fact that our minds are powerful tools, but they need training. They need direction. It's like having a race car with a powerful engine.
Yeah.
It's not going to go anywhere if you don't know how to drive it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what we're really talking about here, right? Learning how to drive our minds effectively, to steer away from those unproductive thought patterns and towards a path of growth, of fulfillment, and maybe even mastery.
So how do we put all of this into practice? How do we actually develop this skill of focused attention in a world that's full of distractions?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? And it's important to acknowledge that just telling someone stop overthinking, it doesn't really help. It's like telling someone with a cold to just stop sneezing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a switch we can just flip on and off.
Yeah.
It's a process and one that requires us to really understand. What's fueling that overthinking in the first place.
Right. And both Prashant and Cody, they provide some insightful clues here. Prashant, he talks about how the mind, it cannot tolerate a vacuum. Meaning if we don't intentionally fill it with what's important, it'll just get cluttered with all those unproductive thoughts. Almost like nature abhors a vacuum,
Yeah.
The mind does too.
Yeah. And Cody, he builds on that idea with his emphasis on having a chief aim, a driving force in our life. He uses that analogy of, drifting aimlessly versus having a clear direction. It's like having a compass to navigate by instead of just wandering lost in the woods.
Right. And when we have that clear sense of purpose, it provides a framework for making decisions, for prioritizing our time, our energy, and ultimately it helps us,
Absolutely.
reduce that mental clutter.
That's where the passion comes in, right? Cody talks about falling in love with something, becoming so absorbed in it that there's just no room for those nagging worries. He even challenges that notion that we need to wait, for some grand life purpose to just magically appear.
Right, exactly. It could be anything, that truly captivates you. Playing disc golf, learning a new language, mastering a complex video game. The key is that it occupies your mind, in a positive and productive way.
It's almost like that passion becomes a form of hyper focus,
right?
Pulling us into the present moment and helping us block out those unproductive thought patterns. But this brings up an interesting tension, I think. We've been talking about finding a passion, something that fully engages the mind. Right. But we've also discussed the importance of quieting the mind, of finding stillness. So how do we reconcile those two seemingly opposite ideas?
Yeah, I don't think it's about choosing one over the other. You know,
Yeah.
it's more about recognizing that both of them have their place in a balanced mental life.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a muscle. You need to both exert it and allow it to rest, to recover.
So it's about finding that rhythm, that flow between focused action and mindful stillness.
Exactly, yeah. And like any skill, it takes practice, you know. Especially in today's world, we're not really wired,
Yeah.
you know, to be naturally focused or mindful. But the more we cultivate those abilities, the more we can reclaim control,
Yeah.
you know, over our mental energy and direct it towards what truly matters.
It's empowering to think that we can actually train our minds like that.
Yeah.
You know, like building mental fitness.
Absolutely. And it's a continuous process.
Yeah.
You know, there will be times when we slip back into old patterns
Yeah.
where our minds get cluttered and overwhelmed. But the key is to keep practicing. You know, keep refining those mental tools and keep reminding ourselves of what's truly important.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the question we leave our listeners with is this: what will you choose to occupy your mind with? You know, what passions will you cultivate? What practices will you embrace to find that balance between focused action and mindful stillness?
Yeah, it's a question worth reflecting on.
Yeah.
Our minds are our most valuable asset, and learning to use them effectively, it's an investment that'll pay dividends for a lifetime.